Hi, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Lovely to see you again. I hope you're not too bored of lockdown, but I think we're in the home straight now, aren't we?
Fingers crossed. It's going to be awesome to get back in the loft. I feel I spent my whole life on Zoom.
Oh, God. I mean, you and me both. I think this will be the final time. I have real faith. Yeah. And if it's not, I'm just going to sit outside in a box just to be outdoors. So today, I mean, we just... this is one of those perfumers and they come along once in a while that we will always be waiting for and always be looking out for and following. And Prin Lomros is no exception. He's up there at the top of our list, isn't he, Dan?
Absolutely. I mean, there are a handful of, I guess, what would you say, maybe 6 or 7 perfume houses that basically every time they release something, we want to smell it. And I guess, and we've been lucky that we've met a few perfumers as well, and Prin Lomros is one of them. I mean, you can go back and see our video of when we first smelt his fragrances, Turkish leather. What were the first
Chetyre
and
Mora.
Yeah, those 3, and that kind of reactions, they blew us away. I mean, they are just what he does is there's a lot of kind of classical structure, real reference to some slightly vintagey feeling fragrance as well, but just with this stunning exotic materials as well. He brings the East, doesn't he, to what would be quite sort of classical and stale perfumery in the wrong hands, and he sort of magical things completely. Like lots of incense with a lotus and champaca and beautiful things like that. But then there's always notes he puts on the notes list, which I've never heard of and have to look up.
Yeah.
And just some magical things. So in our, if you look, we've done lots of videos on Prin's fragrances, and lots of his fragrances crop up repeatedly in our lists. In our last video, we talked about some releases from Prin Parfum. We didn't love them all, and we were a little bit concerned that he was releasing too many fragrances. He actually sent us the samples we're talking about today from Prissana. He sent us a while ago, but we just felt we needed to have a bit of a break from Prin's fragrances. I think I might be wrong. Please correct me, but last year, 2020, he released 18 fragrances, plus the fragrances he did for zoologists. There are a few.
So sloth and bat,
rhinoceros, sloth,
rhinoceros as well, of course,
rhinoceros, and I know he's just done a fragrance for a new company called De Doute. So he's been very, very busy. It's interesting. The last video we did was on Liz Moore's, and she's seems to be doing one fragrance every 2 years. I mean, I don't know. Is a prolific perfumer a bad thing? I mean, would you say Schubert?
It's hard to say, isn't it?
Schubert, hundreds and hundreds of songs, died in his early 30s. One of the most prolific composers ever. Would you say that it detracted from the quality?
Not really.
No, you couldn't. Or Mozart or Purcell, they're the same thing, utterly prolific composers. Whereas I think we have an inclination to think because someone produces a lot, the quality is therefore diluted.
And in some people, that is the case for sure. And in some houses, Penhaligon's I would throw out there as a candidate a few years back when things were coming thick and fast. But I think you have to go on a case-by-case basis, don't you? And you have to look at the talent of the person behind it and what they're capable of. I think it's about romanticism as well, because we like the idea of a perfumer toiling away,
of course,
for years and coming up with the concept and struggling. But actually, if it smells good, it smells good.
Absolutely.
I mean, I do sometimes get a little bit jaded when I think perfumers are just releasing things that are experiments and just sending them out to the public and charging them. But I wouldn't necessarily say that here. I don't think.
And also, when they're expensive
the quality shines
experiments,
through.
I mean, so these are all from Prissana. The last ones we talked about were from Prin Parfum. Some of them, not all of them, some are $180, some are $140, and I think one of them was more expensive as well. So these are, really expensive fragrances. I don't know.
And they're for little 30 ml bottles, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is an extra.
When you're paying that, if you're paying $180 for 30 ml, you're expecting something exceptional. And Prin is an exceptional perfumer. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when Prin is at his best, I adore him. So anyway, let's talk about these. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fragrances from Prissana. His newest releases from Prissana. We've also got one from Strangers. Now, I know some people find it difficult to keep a track of Prin because he had Prin Parfum, then that kind of ceased to be, or he ceased to be a part of it. So he's now a new brand, which is Prin, Prin, as well as Prissana and Strangers. They are now all on the same website, which is prinlomros.com. So I think these first 5, they're all $140 for 30 ml. So they're not, they're still expensive, but they're not mega expensive. Let's talk about Savitri. We've had these for quite a while, so we're just reminding ourselves by spraying on card. The number.
So we're talking about the sun at dawn here. That's
absolutely
Savitri, isn't it?
Or praise the sun, or the kind of light creator. Oh. This is so Prin, isn't it?
Yeah, this. If you said to me who did that, there would be no question in my mind at all.
Oh my god!
That's the same reaction I had when I smelled Mora.
Yeah.
That's so fantastic.
It's so...
It's even better on skin.
Yeah, it's better on skin. It's so magical. It's so... Something like... Because you did Arun Sawat, which was a Stranger's fragrance, which is cheaper, which was... it felt like the sun coming up. It's this incense floral thing. This just feels like a more sophisticated, luxurious, expensive version of that. So this is, he said, it's a South Asian take on a classic Chetyre. That's that top.
I can see what he means there.
You've straight away, you've got this kind of world of incense, which has just been slightly lifted by aldehydes. And there's the suggestion of some florals, but it's mostly, there's quite a lot of citrus. It's quite, in a way, I do get that kind of traditional kind of sheepery top. I don't know if there's bergamot, but there's kind of limey.
It feels more orangey to me.
Yeah,
it feels like more sort of like a dark sort of brooding blood orange or something.
I definitely get lime in this opening. It's
that's bloody good.
It's so.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that. I've not worn it for a few days.
Oh, it really is. It does exactly.
Spice there as well.
Fragrances, and you go in, you looked at the notes, you look at the description. This does everything you hope it would do. Yeah. I get a slight relation to the wonderful Mandarava, which is a really beautiful fragrance. And I tell you, and as I wore this more and more, I feel that this is a more masculine sibling to Mandarava.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having all of the big woodsy notes and the but the spices as well, and not having quite so much predominance of all of the florals. It does it. I mean, it's definitely a relation somehow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I just felt it's not. Yeah, as I said, it's got this kind of like
symphonic.
oak mossy sheepery dry down, hasn't it? So it does feel a bit more. I mean, not that a sheep is necessarily masculine, but there's some kind of darker woody things. Whereas there's still quite a lot of florals here. We still get like champaca. What is there? Yeah, champaca.
Yeah, the champaca is a big one for me.
Yeah, magical. I mean,
and there's some of that concretey iris, like carrot seedy almost.
A bit more spice in there as well. Just a little hint of something a little bit dirty.
Yeah.
Not massively. I mean, for me, the other thing, I don't know if you know this fragrance well, but Ensemble Chetyre by Sultan Pasha, which is the same kind of thing. It's this real traditional masculine Chetyre, but with incense. Here, the incense is a little bit more sparkling, and the white floral is a little bit more prominent, but This is really beautiful. This is really Prin. This is it. I love this.
It feels like a real nod. It feels like a real nod to the classic Chetyre, actually, but through his perspective.
It's really good.
It's got that lovely paint effect that I love, and I'll never ever figure out what it is that does it. But that you get it in Ghost House from Anna Zwarikina. And I love it. It's one of my favorite things in perfume, and I don't know what it is. It bugs me.
Amazing. I mean, we maybe our introduction seemed a bit critical, but
I think it's just because we care. If we really care about someone and what they do, then it's I don't think we're critical. I think we're probably putting more pressure on ourselves than anything. We're putting pressure on ourselves to kind of to like it and appreciate it and understand it.
I mean, that's a home run as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and vintage again. I like the vintage style.
Vintage, vintage, but Prin, like it's a Prin take on it. So
Prin vintage.
There's that if you love those old Chetyres, maybe with a masculine twist, but you want something unlike anything else. You've got to. This is it. This is all the respect to those classical fragrances, but Prin. Amazing. Yeah. Shall we move on? We've got plenty to get through.
So what do we have next?
Nefer.
Yes.
So this is refers to Cleopatra, and it's based on a 2012 archaeological discovery that the perfume that Cleopatra may have worn contained myrrh, cinnamon, and cardamom. And this is straight there, isn't it? I mean, this is a big. I found, I don't always talk about. Yeah, I don't always talk about performance, but this on me was a quite big in sillage. Certainly, initially it's big in sillage, but an extremely long-lasting fragrance. So it's this incense and spice, and those things, those notes I've just listed: myrrh, cinnamon, cardamom. Big in this.
Big pepper as well.
Yeah, kind of black pepper. I don't mind you get more black pepper. I've got like a black pepper essential oil, and I bloody love it. And I don't understand why it's not used more. Pink pepper's used all the time, whereas black pepper, maybe it's just not put as a list. It's something that's.
I don't like pink pepper. I find it really irritating.
No. You really get that image of a kind of Egyptian burial tomb. I mean,
with all of the artifacts ready for the afterlife. The oils and the spices all ready to go.
And there's there rose in there. There's some kind of like some kind of sweet, bright floral. Yeah, there's rose and saffron. And
the thing I'm getting most here at the moment is a sort of big saffron pepper. Not so much spices, but the effects of the spices, like the sort of the bracing quality of them.
Yeah,
I can't taste the individual spices. I just get the sort of enlivening.
There was in the last video we did
ginger as well
of the Prin fragrances. There was it Sarin Khan, which had this kind of spiced rose, saffron, amber thing, which I just found when I was smelling it, I felt like we'd smelt it a million times before, and it was very. I felt it kind of just quite average and run of the mill and over familiar. Whereas this feels somehow it's got some of those things, but it's more exotic. This is certainly in the similar realm to L'air des Marocains, and also the other one I was reminded was Dendera by Centauri. Peter Fragrance Group by his. We were just, but I guess it's got that bit more cardamom, and I know cardamom always makes me think, of being in the Middle East. The smell of cardamom coffee, especially, you get it in the air around markets, and
it's so thick, isn't it?
Oh. This is
it coats your tongue. I'm not getting much in terms of the florals, and I didn't on skin so much. I got very much the pepper and the cumin and the I don't know what it is. Is there ginger in here?
I don't know what it is. I got the kind of a jammy rose thing. I mean, he doesn't put on the. So these are the little kind of sample bottles he gave us.
Oh yeah.
And I've kind of given Joe half of these. I'll tell you what he lists: myrrh, incense, cinnamon, nagamotha, which is cypriol, saffron, cardamom, rose, amber, and narcissus. Don't really get any narcissus. I feel I get a bit of a kind of jammy rose, which kind of goes with the saffron.
It sort of peeks its head out, doesn't it?
It's not a rose fragrance. It's not a floral fragrance. It's just this beautiful, incensey, spicy, slightly ambered melange, isn't it?
Do you know what I get a little hint of with this? It's that weird smell I remember from school where we had like craft design technology classes, and there was the smell in the workshop of the like wood shavings and also electrical solder. Just a little hint. So it's like just something slightly burnt, but enough to kind of sting your nostrils, but not enough to kind of to hurt.
I don't think this is a particularly revolutionary or an enormously original fragrance, but I do think it's really beautiful.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good.
Agreed. I wouldn't wear it myself personally. I like it, but it's almost slightly too cold and austere for me. I do like something which, not that it has to kind of be warm and cuddly, but this is very much a sort of artistic thing, isn't it? You know, I'm just painting a picture of a place.
I don't know. I think it's quite wearable.
No, it is wearable for sure.
Yeah.
It just I personally wouldn't wear it myself because it's not a place I imagine I would want to be transported to somehow.
Fair enough. Egypt.
I do like it a lot.
Never going to go anywhere. Egypt. Right. Should we move on to Chetyre? I think it's pronounced Chetyre. Any Russian speakers, please correct me. So this is Chetyre means four in Russian. This is based on a film. So this is real classic Prin. He's really, really, really into film. He's really into extreme cinema. So this is an example of I haven't watched it. I watched a bit of the trailer. He says the film's about violence, torture, graphic sex. It's got the characters are a meat merchant, a prostitute, and a piano tuner. I mean, that
sounds like an episode of Friends.
Yeah. I think there was a 40 Towers which had that, didn't they? Right. So.
Oh, I tell you what, that is good, isn't it? I'd forgotten about that.
This is top note of queerderacy.
Absolutely. Just a sort of massive whack you around the chops with something dark and brooding. I tell you what, Beaufort need to give Prin a ring.
Yeah.
For the next series of burning building after aerial bombardment. This is it for me.
This is, there's a lot going on here. I definitely get this queerderacy thing. So it's interesting, like Savitri, there's a nod to the vintage here. I get it. There's also, but then I also feel like there's this real dark green fougere thing going on. I get this kind of like piney, sprucey, dark oak moss. And then later, I feel you kind of get the queerderacy in the top and the bottom, because in the bottom it went quite birchy and quite smoky, which again, these kind of green woods.
It's a fire in a fougere factory.
yeah, you're right. Because there is sometimes I get this like lavendery, woodsy, piney, classic 80s aromatic fougere, which, as you say, has been set on fire.
Do you get like a slight charcoaly thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Apart from the smokiness itself, like that charcoal smell. I remember it from my grandmother because I used to dig the coal in her. She had a coal house outside, and we go out there and dig it and bring it in and fill the fires and the Rayburn.
I definitely feel
this
that smell. One of
damp as well.
There's still some brightness. I think he's really in an aldehydes mood, isn't he? Because he's used aldehydes quite a lot in Mora, all the time. But there's definitely aldehydes providing a bit of brightness in here, because otherwise it's mostly quite heavy. I guess you've got some pine, which are giving you some bright notes. But on the whole, it's quite a dark. It's one of the darkest Prin fragrances, I'd say.
It's serious juice, isn't it?
I mean, he's done some pretty dark fragrances, but. This is really good stuff. This is exactly. It's full of personality. You've not elements of this you have smelt before, but you've not smelt them. I don't mean you. I mean you, the viewer, have not smelt them put together like this.
Do you know what's weird about this? And I've never really experienced this with a few things apart from vintage versus modern. So I'll take an example. Derby. I think the vintage Derby is a big Oriental style fragrance, and I think the modern stuff is now a fougere in style, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I feel, is a fougere, but I also feel it could be a Chypre as well. It feels like it's got all of that damp, dank forest floor. It's like burnt truffle or something.
The thing is, it just lacks any kind of sweetness to be a Chypre, really, doesn't it? It lacks, the labdanum or which you would.
It's got the stuff that I'd like in the base, but
the mossy, greeny, oaky.
I think it's the mossiness. There's not a Chypre as such, but it could sort of straddle. Throw in a couple of peaches and Bob's your uncle.
It's
really good.
Another a very really interesting, really original, bold, but it's not like it's if we're describing it, it probably sounds absolutely insane. It's still there's a homogeneous quality to it. It doesn't actually feel like all those things are competing, even if when we describe them it sounds like bong 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 bong.
No, it has a slight gothic sort of feel to it, and it's not that it's loud or screechy or things aren't balanced. They are. I felt like on the skin this thing actually had a roundness to it, like quite a bit later on, like as if there's some like creamy, like I don't know, Baileys or something, just to sort of soothe the blow out the end of a long day. You know what I mean? There's something there in the base, and I don't know what it is.
Exactly, but I think
just a creaminess.
Here we've talked. There's a lot of classical structure there. I think it doesn't feel like a wacky, even though some of the notes are a bit. It feels like there's this kind of fougere-like structure. Right? Shall we move on to something very different?
Great stuff.
Vallée des Roses. So this is another one which is $140 for 30 ml. It's based on the rose pickers of the Atlas Mountains. And then interesting, in the notes list, I mean, he lists Persian rose and damask rose. I don't know, I guess the damask rose could be Moroccan, but he doesn't list Rose de Morocco. Anyway, it's inspired by the rose pickers of Morocco.
I do enjoy this one as well, actually.
It's the absolute polar opposite to the last one, isn't it?
This is what you need after that.
Oh, I've forgotten. Yeah, it's amazing. I've not, worn them sequentially like this. This is just like that was the darkest, horrible things happening. People getting tortured in vans in the middle of the night. And this.
Sorry that your legs are both charred wrecks, but here's some Turkish delight to make you feel better.
I get loads of orange in this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you definitely get rose in the opening. This is definitely the most rosy fragrance I've smelt from Prin. Again, really it feels very classical. Do you not think? I mean, if this would be like a Frederick Mal or...
I think it's also got that feeling of like Thai rose, but with orange instead of geranium or lemony.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sherbety aspects.
For me, the orangeness in here is quite big, and I think I completely agree that it gives that kind of searing quality to the rose, which you get from Thai rose, without it having to be really, really expensive like Thai rose. Load of some jasmine and myrrh going on as well, especially the jasmine in the middle, just giving this slightly white, florally indolic quality to it.
Yeah, when
you wear it on skin.
I got some slightly fruity notes as well on skin. I remember.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
got like plum syrup or something.
I think I got orange, which at the beginning was kind of zesty, and then later it became kind of more syrupy, and there was more kind of syrupiness. And it never went. This is a obviously it's, as I said, it's probably most rose dominant, but I never feel it goes kind of really too rosy, if that makes some sense.
Yeah, it's always balanced with everything else.
It never becomes like an out and out, really, really jammy or really like powdery rose. I don't think it's just about rose. It's really lovely.
It's just that's what leads you in. I think that's what kind of immediately grabs you. But it's actually like, on skin, it settles into just something very beautiful.
When I first
tobacco.
did this, it was I was kind of leading up to Christmas, I guess, when it was a bit cold and wet, and this is such a lovely fragrance to wear on those dark days. It was so.
It is a real sort of. It's a really happy thing.
Mm. Yeah, I did. Towards the end, I got this kind of dryness and dustiness. The end of it, the dry down, I didn't love the dry down. I think the nature of this fragrance is so much about the uplifting, energetic opening and mid. But I felt they lasted long enough that I was happy with the fact that there wasn't quite anything in the dry down to drive me nuts. Maybe I was expecting to go to a Lab de Nome sheep for a dry down, or something like that, and I didn't get it.
But I think, like you say, that the joy of something like this is in the top and the middle. It's that's the sort of the heartbeat and the energy center.
Pomegranate. That's what it says.
Oh, pomegranate.
That could that
nice.
That kind of pomegranate molasses. That kind of syrupy rich.
That's what I was getting, like a sort of something stewing away in a saucepan.
It's a really, really lovely fragrance.
That's really great. Yeah.
I can't, for me, again, if we're talking...
It's a home run for me here.
It is. I was going to say that I wouldn't buy it, but then I don't have anything else like it, really. I think the only thing is that... Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say the only thing that I've wanted recently, which is anything like this, is the... I was going to say Perry Ellis. I don't mean Perry Ellis.
I know the one you mean. The type
Paris Monte Carlo. Yeah. That type rose extrait is really good. But I actually think this is a little bit more playful as well. It's a little bit more open-hearted.
I just wanted something to excite me, maybe like an ambergris dry down or something like that at the bottom. There was or musky dry down. There was just something which didn't quite take me over the edge, so to speak. Right, let's carry on. Hayra.
What do we have now? Hayra.
So this is a mythical amphibious creature, half crocodile, half man in Thai Buddhist literature. So the fragrance is inspired by that and Thai Buddhist temples. So we're back into real classic Prin kind of territory.
I found this quite closed, I have to say, at the start. Yeah.
I got a relation to I kind of got the opening to Savitri without any of the incense or aldehydes. I felt that there was a lime note, which it shared with that. But here the lime had gone a bit, generally the opening doesn't have the sparkle of Savitri.
Yeah. It does feel a little bit like a modern day aquatic sort of thing. It sounds really weird to say that.
I kind of know what you mean. Yeah, there's this kind of...
But the sea salty thing.
I'm just going to say, this was my least favorite out of this. I just felt on the whole, it kind of lacked the depth and the intrigue. It just wasn't as interesting as some of the other ones. I kind of get this bergamotti, limey, quite green, slightly bitter thing with some nice florals going on the mid, and then it went quite kind of cyprially towards the end. And I can't remember, there was he's done another fragrance of Prissana which went quite cyprially towards the end.
I don't get what it's trying to say. It's like a wine that's gone quiet in the cellar, and when you open it now, it's like very closed off, and if you open it again in a year, it'll be like fully blooming. And I get a little bit of that here. It's just everything is kind of held.
I completely.
I'm not getting the story that's
and also,
described.
When you say, especially I'm not sure about the mythical creature, but the nod to Buddhist temple, that kind of beautiful sparkle of incense and florals and smoke that I was getting in some of the fragrances like Savitri, or even in a completely different way, Nefer. I don't get any suggestion of Buddhist temple. I mean, not that I've spent a huge amount of time in it, but I don't. What the image in my head, I'm not finding represented here.
There's something nestling in the middle of this, which I think could be the heart of the fragrance, which is this animalic thing, and it's it's nestling somewhere in the middle of it. Everything around it. I'm getting kind of very faint and not quite distinct voices, and then in the middle, I just get this hint of something dirty and troubling, and I like it. I think that could be the real beating heart of it.
I don't know. I kept trying to like them, and I kept trying to find it. I just couldn't find much in this. There's a kind of basil-y quality, like maybe even a kind of Chinese basil, kind of coriander, as in fresh coriander, not coriander seed. Lemongrassy kind of. I mean, it just compared to maybe a fragrance like Tom Yum, it's not as interesting as that. It's
hard to place it, isn't it?
It's the kind of fragrance, if I never smelled it again in my life, I wouldn't be sad. I mean, it sounds hard.
No offense, Prin, but
this is one of the ones where I feel there's lots of great fragrances here, and this one is not in the same league as any of the others we've smelled so far, I don't feel. And
why should it have to be? Why should we like all of them? That's the nature of these things, isn't it? If we just loved all of them blindly, that would be weird. I mean, they all have different qualities. They all have different facets. I can see myself liking that more in future. I reckon I could do an about turn on that in another couple of weeks. It's weird.
I kept trying, but I mean, I've decanted some to Joe, but even so, I've kind of got my way through quite a fair bit of that. Right. Now we're moving on to strangers. So this is a different house. This is $110 for 30 ml X-ray. This is, I'll give you the full name, roasted coffee, cigarette whiskey. Come and get your Suede Honey Baby.
Wow.
So if you know Prin Lomros fragrances well, you know that there is a coffee accord which crops up a few times. SM Cafe, Burning Ben, a few other things. He even specifically says on the website, no, not SM Cafe Part 2. It's totally different. Is it?
Well, I have to say that I do get some accompaniments to the coffee here. So I get like Cheerios, honey Cheerios or something.
I got popcorn.
Popcorn.
Yeah, I got caramel popcorn. I got sweet popcorn. Yeah. I've got to say, so this is it
is interesting actually.
It's funny that we've grouped this with the other fragrances, but this is so different, isn't it? This is so and often Strangers is a Prin at his more playful. But yet he's got some very serious, like our own Sawat feels like kind of very Prin.
Burning Ben. I mean, that's if you put Burning Ben in amongst the Prissana line, I wouldn't hesitate. I think, wow, this some serious
feels
stuff.
Much more kind of Andy Warhol pop, poppy.
Yeah.
It feels like there's quite like this is a big, you're getting a big performance of aroma chemicals. I'm sure there are aroma chemicals in all of them, but you really feel that there's this big kind of almost plasticky punch around the face. I definitely got popcorn. I see what you mean by Golden Grahams as well, but I really got sweet popcorn at the fairground. Bit of tobacco, bit of sweet kind of tobacco-y, but Golden Grahams.
It's good though. It's a really nice thing to smell.
It is, and I've also in my notes
for a cold day, I'd happily wear this.
I've put more sophisticated than you think.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because having said it's kind of poppy, it is. There's more to it, and there's a nice bitter coffee quality to it as well, isn't there?
And we should talk about that because coffee is a hard thing to do. There's so much kind of coffee-based stuff, especially the kind of, the Manceras and the Montals and the, the New Harlems of this world, which are all like vanilla latte type things. And that, for a proper sort of roasted coffee effect, there aren't that many great ones. Yeah. Followed by kerosene, I enjoy. I think that's really good.
I mean, it's easy.
This is good stuff.
When you first smell it, especially against the other things, it's such a different world. But it's an enjoyable fragrance. And there's someone, like me, who normally doesn't like gourmand fragrances and shies away from them. I think this is one. It's a very sophisticated example. As I said, more sophisticated than you think. Note to self.
I mean, but look at something like Naxos, which I know you have, and I don't know if you're still a fan of, as you were once upon a time.
I've sold it.
You sold it, but I mean, imagine something like that, but with a really good coffee note.
Yeah, this is better.
That sort of sweet tobacco thing. I mean, I think it's a really appealing thing. I would happily wear that.
Yeah,
and not have any complaints.
I mean, this is very different to SM Cafe because that's more kind of a burnt kind of leather thing. But I feel the coffee in this I feel this is a more sophisticated fragrance, and it's also got a bit of a relation to what's the other one? Tobacco. What's his tobacco fragrance?
Cigar rum.
Cigar rum. Yeah. Cigar rum. This is kind of taken bits of cigar rum and SM Cafe and made them.
It works
in a playful way, but quite effective. I was surprised by this. I think when I first smelt it, I was a bit like, oh no, it's a good perfume.
Some like leathery burnt leather thing coming through as well. I found on skin, certainly I got a sort of weird cooked leather. I found
it was more tanned leather, or even like fresh. I always, when I talk about leather, I remember going to Fez and go near the tanneries and that smell of leather. There's just leather everywhere in Fez. And it's more of that kind of fresh leather or worn leather as opposed to, for me, than burnt.
Yeah.
I don't feel it has the burnt qualities of SM Cafe. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's
take my hat off to him.
So I feel like it's when we seemed a bit critical maybe at the start of this video, and maybe our last video was a bit critical. On the whole, I think it's probably clear we've enjoyed these fragrances more than most of the fragrances in the last video. I mean, what are your favourites or top three out of this?
Savitri, and I think so for me, Savitri and the Rose.
I'm going to say the same thing as well. Although I do like Chetyre as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I can't see myself. I can't see myself wearing it. Savitri, I would wear any day of the week, and the Rose, I would wear the following day just to chill.
I'll tell you what I'd love to do, because when I've been testing these, they've mostly been in the winter, and I loved the Vallée des Roses in the winter. I'd love to wear it in the summer because I think that zingy orange and what we've now identified as pomegranate would work really well. There's some good stuff.
Yeah, really beautiful stuff here.
We're trying to be as objective as we can about Prin's fragrances because we spent a lot of time with him. I don't want to become, sycophantic at all, but there's a lot we love here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not at all surprised because he is great and he knows what he's doing.
I mean, I as I say, our initial reaction is always when someone's doing a lot, you kind of worry about it. And I did in some of those Prin fragrances, I felt that there were some which were not very interesting or original, and some which didn't feel quite complete. I felt that about Hayra here. I felt like it's not quite a complete fragrance, but other than that, I think there's some really good things.
Yeah, totally.
So
he's done it again.
Keep at it, Prin. We'll keep on
Savitri.
smelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Savitri, absolute home run. Okay, so if
Right,
you
well.
tried, these have been out a while. These were released last year, as we said at the beginning. So if you tried them, let us know. But
Yeah.
till next time,
Bye.
happy sniffing.